Dennis? Yeah, I'm going to read, excuse me, John. All of the applause and any comments will be taken from the time period for questions. So you're going to hurt the candidate you support by any kind of reaction. I think it's best to just listen, and at the end, we can show our appreciation. John?
Thank you very much to the organizers and to the Republican clubs that made tonight possible. This is a significant event for our respective campaigns and also for the Republican Party. Tonight's debate shows that San Francisco Republicans are an important and vital voice to the political dialogue, not only here in the city, but of course in the Bay Area as well. Let me tell you a little bit about me and how it was I came to this decision to run for Congress. I grew up in Jersey City, New Jersey. My father was a longshoreman. My mother was a city hall clerk. I earned a scholarship to a Jesuit prep school. I went to a Jesuit university, and I co-founded a substantial company known as Human Scale. I also grew up in a housing project called Curry's Woods. My family was one of the first to move into a grand high experiment called Curry's Woods. It was an episode in social engineering in Jersey City. And I'm sorry to say that, that the entire story of my life in Curry's Woods was not a happy one. What I learned from living there is that when the government owns something, nobody owns it. And when nobody owns it, nobody takes care of it. And in the case of Curry's Woods, it eventually became clear that this was going to be another crime-ridden, drug-infested nightmare that we've come to associate with the term public housing. In fact, Curry's Woods became the setting for the Spike Lee film Clockers. Eventually, this grand experiment in government social engineering imploded. It failed, and six buildings were dynamited into dust. For me, the Curry's Woods experience remains a powerful metaphor for government programs. It was conceived with good intentions, and ultimately it wasted millions of dollars and harmed thousands of lives. With this experience in mind, I still didn't find my full political voice until I went to college, where I discovered my political passion, individual liberty. And although I had strong political convictions, I didn't get politically active until just a few years ago. And when I was looking into this race, I was hoping to find a candidate who would stand up and say the things that I wanted to hear them say them in a way that I wanted to hear them say them. And finally, and eventually, I just decided to try and be that candidate. As many of you know, I was active in the Ron Paul for President campaign. As was mentioned, I worked in 4 states, in Nevada, the Iowa caucuses. I also was a volunteer leader here in California. I was attracted to the Ron Paul campaign, as were many Republicans, for 2 reasons. First and foremost was Ron Paul's commitment to individual liberty, and also to the commitment to the idea that government's role in our lives is just to protect our rights, not to deny them. I was also attracted to Ron's emphasis on following the U.S. Constitution. I was pleased that he would look at government and try and follow it through those constitutional principles. I've also tried to do the same thing, and many people have been critical of me for following those principles in this campaign. But the thing is, I believe that 95% of what we're going through now has been caused by the federal government's interference in our lives. And that interference comes only because we've ignored the very document upon which this country was founded. Now, having said that, we can debate our founding documents, we can debate a number of different issues, but the truth is there is one straightforward, real question for San Francisco Republicans in this debate. And that is the question, which one of the 2 candidates here is best equipped to take on the critically important role of facing the most powerful Democrat in the U.S. Congress? My opponent's record is transparent. As she mentioned, she ran in 2008, but first and foremost, we have to understand that my opponent doesn't live in the district. In 2008, when she ran, she raised more money than Nancy Pelosi's 10 previous Republican opponents combined. And yet she got the fewest votes that any Republican has ever received running against Nancy Pelosi. This is an enormous handicap for my opponent to overcome. In contrast, I offer not only a new face to the electorate, but also a new approach for the Republicans, which has energized a new volunteer base and generated contributions and support from around the nation. But make no mistake, the campaign against Nancy Pelosi is a national campaign. It's essential that we select the best Republican for the task. Thank you again, and I look forward to your questions.
Okay, speaking of